Okay, hi guys. So now I'm going to read the first couple pages of Cyclops, pages 34 to 39. If you leave this video going as you move from the next slides, you can continue to listen to the story and follow along on each slide. Each slide has a portion of the story that I want you to take a moment after you read it or listen to me and do a brief summary for each of those. So here we go. I'm going to start reading. I'm on page 34. It's the next slide. Go ahead and click there and we'll get started. The Cyclops. After 10 years in a hot, overcrowded army camp, no one was sorry to leave. The different sectors of the Greek army said their goodbyes, wished one another swift and successful voyages, and cast off from Trojan shores for the last time. In our small fleet of 12 ships, I and my Ithacan followers set course for home. We were exultant. Instead of the stifling heat and the dusty plains, we had a fresh sea breeze on our cheeks, and the salt spray tasted of long-forgotten pleasures, making us ache with joy. Our crimson ships were filled with the riches of Troy, and we were glad that we would have so much to show for our long absence. Behind us, Troy lay smoking in ruins. Perhaps it was superstition, but not one of us looked back. No, we all looked forward towards Ithaca, towards our home. The wind, however, was south-southeast, and we were driven north to the land of the Cyclones. No doubt still flushed by our success at Troy, we disembarked and swept through the town of Ismarus, seizing whatever we desired and killing whoever stood in our way. It was sheer piracy, an orgy of looting, but men wanted to carry home as much wealth as possible. Besides, after 4 days at sea, insensible to replenish our diminishing collection of food and wine. As soon as we pillaged the town, I ordered our getaway. Unfortunately, my men had already grown complacent, fat with their success. They laughed at me and told me to relax and enjoy myself, because that is what they were going to do. So we spent that evening on the shores of Ismarus in drunken celebration, roasting whole oxen and sheep and drinking vast quantities of strong red wine. Just as I feared, the Cyclones had gone inland in search of reinforcements to drive away their unwelcome visitors. They attacked our camp at dawn. You can imagine our condition. Our famous army was overwhelmed and driven back onto the beach where the ships were moored. We were lucky to get away without losing more than around 6 men out of the 60 from each ship. We were glad to escape so lightly, but we were saddened by the loss of our comrades. It seemed an unnecessary waste, and indeed it was. Besides, it was now dawned on us that we were still a long way from home, and if the gods were against us, we might never get there. The exuberant mood in which we sailed away from the coast of Troy had gone for good. As though to confirm our new sense of foreboding, a violent storm blew up. We managed to lower our sails and row into the shores before any damage was done. 2 anxious days followed, in which we watched the tempest churn up the sea. On the 3rd day, we were able to cast off once more, and we now made rapid progress south. Within a week, we reached Malea, the southeast cape of the Peloponnese, and our confidence began to return. But as we rounded the cape, ready for the last leg of our journey north toward Ithaca, a gale-force wind blew up from the east and drove us off course, past Cythera and many miles to the west. For 9 days, the wind blew us west, farther and farther from home. We only sat by helplessly and watched. On the 10th day, we were blown onto the shores of Libya. We disembarked, and some of us went in search of water while others prepared a meal. After we had eaten and began recovering, I sent a small party off to spy out the land and see what they could find out about its inhabitants. Meanwhile, the rest of us set out on a task of cleaning up our ships and repairing the damaged sails. It was not long before we were ready to sail again, but my party of explorers had not returned. We waited and waited, and still there was no sign of them. In the end, I had no choice but to send out a second party in search of the first. And when the second group failed to return, I decided to go and look for them myself. I took half a dozen men, of my most reliable men, and together we climbed the cliffs above the beach and made our way inland. It did not take long to find them. They had met with some natives of the land, who had made them feel welcome and given them lotus fruit to eat. The lotus fruit, so my men told me after, tastes of nectar and honeydew, and is so strong a drug that whoever eats it is instantly addicted. Once my men had tasted it, they lost all desire to return home, and wished only to remain forever in the land of the lotus eaters, feasting on this strange and dangerous fruit. Although the drug made them too drowsy to put up much resistance, it took a great effort to drag them all back to the ships. Ignoring their tears and pleas to be left behind, we bound them with ropes and shoved them in the hold of my ship until we had sailed far away from the Libyan coast. Now we were despondent. As far as we knew, we were farther than ever from home. But even worse, we were no longer sure how to get there. That night we came to a small wooded island lying close to a much larger one. Here we found a sandy inlet where we docked our ships on the beach and made our camp. As soon as we began to explore our new surroundings, we thought that our luck had turned. The island's only inhabitants were an abundant flock of goats, and it was not long before we had caught 100 or so and set about preparing a feast. Later, as we lay under the stars on the soft sand, savoring the delicious wine, of which we still had plenty, we noticed the glow of fires on the large island nearby. We also heard the bleating of sheep and goats, and from time to time, unmistakable human shouts. It struck us as odd that people would live so close and yet not use the small island on which we had camped. The flocks of wild goats were matched with good soil, luxuriant vegetation, sweet-tasting natural springs. The thought the island held some hideous secret made us uneasy as we prepared to sleep, but we resolved to sail across to the larger island the next day. This was not a matter of idle curiosity. We wanted to find out where we were and to get directions for our journey. The following day was heralded by one of those lovely Mediterranean dawns that gladdens the heart. Leaving the main body of the fleet where it was, I sailed across to the mainland with my crew. We moored our ships in a small natural harbor, and together with 12 of my crew, I clambered ashore. We had not gone far when we came to the entrance of a great cave covered in laurels. Walls of stone and timber formed a courtyard in the front of it. Getting no response to our cries of greeting, we decided to investigate the cave for ourselves. Okay, here's where I'm going to stop. Now, remember, make sure you have done a summary on each of the previous slides, as well as this one. And then do the final slide, which is a picture or text about the story. Okay, see you guys all tomorrow. Good job.